Kenosha protest killings, vigilante or savior. Subscribe for more true crime. Like, comment, and help uncover the truth with us. The echoes of gunshots rang out in Kenosha's streets under an uneasy summer dusk. August 25th, 2020. The night protest violence turned into tragedy. A 17-year-old named Kyle Rittenhouse, armed and confident, walked into that chaos. In one harrowing instant, he raised a rifle and fired. 2 men fell dead, another lay wounded. The world watched in horror. Who was this teenager, and why did he act? Moments earlier, Kenosha was swelling with tension. Protests over racial injustice had spread, and unrest flowed down its streets. Fires burned. Barricades stood. The National Guard was called in, but among the protesters and the police, Rittenhouse moved quietly. Surveillance footage later showed him pacing near a used car lot, his black shirt blending into shadows, the barrel of a long rifle glinting in the lights. When the first shots erupted, chaos swallowed the block. A man ran, collapsing onto the sidewalk. Another was struck from behind. People screamed. Flashlights swayed. Crowds scattered. Rittenhouse reloaded and advanced. He raised his weapon again. Bullets echoed. Lives changed forever. Civilians with cameras captured the aftermath. Men lying still, others bleeding, hands raised in shock. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The smoke of protest fires drifted above. In the darkness, the tiny figure of Kyle stood framed by street lamps, rifle raised, face unreadable. The nation was stunned. How did a teenager end up in the center of this carnage? Self-defense? Vigilante justice? Or cold recklessness? But the shocking moment was only the beginning. In the days to follow, investigators would uncover chilling details about his movements, his statements, and his mindset. When police later searched his car and home, they discovered evidence that challenged his narrative and would pit communities against each other in an emotional, high-stakes courtroom battle. The morning after the Kenosha shootings, America woke up divided. News outlets replayed the same haunting footage. The teenager walking calmly toward flashing police lights, his hands raised, rifle slung across his chest. The question echoed nationwide. Was Kyle Rittenhouse a hero defending himself, or a vigilante who crossed the line? Investigators moved quickly. Surveillance footage, cell phone clips, and live streams from that night flooded online spaces. Every angle told a different story. Forensic teams mapped bullet trajectories and shell casings, marking the cracked pavement with neon evidence tags. The FBI's digital lab analyzed social media posts. Screenshots of Rittenhouse posing with his weapon days before the protests surfaced, sparking outrage and fear in equal measure. Inside the Kenosha Police Department, detectives pieced together a timeline. Rittenhouse had traveled from Illinois, claiming he wanted to protect businesses from looters. But questions arose. Why was a 17-year-old carrying an AR-15-style rifle across state lines? Who gave it to him? And what compelled him to step into one of the most volatile protests of 2020? As prosecutors reviewed the footage, defense lawyers countered quickly. They argued that Kyle acted in self-defense, cornered, attacked, and terrified. Slow-motion analysis of the videos showed one man lunging toward him, another raising a skateboard as a weapon. To some, this supported his claim. To others, it didn't erase the fact that 2 people were dead. Outside the courthouse, the air turned electric. Protesters holding Justice for Victims signs clashed with supporters waving American flags and chanting, "Self-defense is not a crime." Across social media, the story became a symbol of America's cultural divide: race, guns, justice, and the right to defend oneself. Meanwhile, Kyle sat in a holding cell awaiting trial. Face, once anonymous, was now on every news channel. Letters of support poured in alongside threats. The nation had already chosen sides long before the verdict. That week, new evidence emerged. The rifle's ownership was traced to a friend, confirming it was stored illegally. Phone messages hinted at online groups discussing defense plans before the protests began. The courtroom battle was set. For some, the case was about justice for the fallen. For others, it was about protecting constitutional rights. But as the trial neared, one truth became clear. Whatever the verdict, America's wounds were far from healing. The courtroom in Kenosha was tense, a mix of reporters, protesters, and family members clutching hope and grief. Kyle Rittenhouse sat quietly beside his defense team, his eyes fixed on the jury box. Weeks of testimony, forensics, and emotional witness accounts had led to this moment. The nation watched live as 12 jurors prepared to deliver their verdict on one of the most polarizing trials in modern American history. Outside, hundreds gathered behind metal barricades. On one side, signs read, "Justice for the victims." On the other, flags waved with "Free Kyle" slogans. Police drones circled overhead as the sound of helicopters echoed through the gray Wisconsin sky. News vans lined the block, their cameras waiting for the moment that would ignite yet another national debate. Inside, the judge's gavel struck once. The jury foreperson stood. On the charge of first-degree intentional homicide. A long pause filled the air. Not guilty. Gasps spread across the courtroom. One by one, each charge, reckless endangerment, possession of a dangerous weapon, was read aloud, and each time the same verdict followed. Not guilty. Kyle collapsed into his chair, tears streaming down his face as his attorneys embraced him. Across the aisle, the victim's family said, lies wept silently. Outside, the crowd erupted. Cheers, anger, disbelief. A storm of emotion that captured the very essence of America's divide. Cable networks went live instantly. Analysts debated constitutional rights versus moral accountability. Was this a victory for self-defense laws or a failure of justice? The public's reaction was split by ideology, experience, and pain. For many, the trial wasn't just about Kyle. It was about what America had become. In the days that followed, cities braced for unrest. Protests reignited from coast to coast, though most remained peaceful. The Department of Justice announced a review of the case, while human rights groups called for deeper reflection on gun laws and youth radicalization online. Kyle Rittenhouse returned home, now a free man, but his life forever changed. He spoke briefly to the press, his voice shaky, saying he wanted to move forward and heal. But the shadow of that night in Kenosha would follow him and the country for years to come. The trial ended, yet the questions it raised, about fear, justice, and identity, still echo through America's streets. If this case stunned you, the next one will haunt you. Subscribe for what's coming.